Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 51 of the Bright Horizons podcast. Let me ask you guys something. What kind of constraints do you put on your life? I want you to take a step back and analyze your life, okay? Are you someone who is always trying to color within the lines? Someone who is trying to live up to somebody else's expectations? I'm going to tell you right now that that is not what's going to lead you to a happy life. And this episode is going to be talking all about that. It's essentially going to prove to you that by the end of this episode, you will understand that you need to stop living up to other people's expectations and start living for your own purpose and your own passion. Now, I actually want to open this episode up with a story, okay? Now, this story is what inspired me to make this episode about said topic. We begin with a British journalist by the name of Matthew Syed. Now, Matthew is obsessed with tennis. So one year, he decided to go to Wimbledon to see the matches up close and personal. Now, tennis is quite a unique sport in recent years because it actually has 3 Hall of Fame players, or GOATs, greatest of all time. These players are constantly rotating between championship positions, okay? Now, for those of you that don't know tennis, the 3 names that you need to watch out for are Roger Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal, okay? Those are the 3 names you got to know. Now, these 3 are consistently rotating around championship positions. So Matthew had the fortunate opportunity to go and see each of these players warm up before their big games. Now, he noticed that Nadal was a super jacked, muscular, aggressive player. Every move he made was with anger. He hit the ball as hard as he could every single time. Loud grunts of aggression. That was his warm-up. Then he walks over and he looks at Djokovic. Djokovic is a very robotic, precise, and accurate player. Every move he makes is calculated. He expends as little energy as possible and tries to be conservative with his hits. Then he walks over to Federer's court, and he looks at Federer, and this guy is standing there hitting trick shots and laughing with his trainer instead of training hard. Now, Matthew sits there and wonders to himself, all 3 of these people became world-class tennis players, and yet they all have absurdly different training habits and personalities. How does that make any sense? Isn't there supposed to be a secret formula that makes you the tennis GOAT or the football GOAT or the hockey GOAT? Trick question. There is no secret formula, man. Whatever it is you want to do in life, you can achieve it in the way that you want to achieve it. And that's what I want to hit home with that story right away, because that story blew my mind. I'm sitting in the car driving home from school, and I hear that on a podcast, Chris Williams' episode with Chris Bumstead, so that I can cite my source. And as I heard that story, I thought, man, I got to talk about this today. I want you guys to sit and think about that episode or story, and I want you to give me your thoughts on it and what you think about it.
Well, I mean, I think that people have like a very skewed idea of how everybody gets to the top. They think that everybody's... Well, actually, I find it funny because like we see that everybody goes through a different path. Like we observe the greats and notice that they all didn't go the same way. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, we don't take that as a learning opportunity to say that we can all make our own way, right? Like we observe everybody else as being great in their own way, but then we don't believe that we have the ability to do the same.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that we sell ourselves short, and that's what stops us from actually being able to achieve those great things. I just wanted to just throw this out there for you guys. I know the last episode was very solemn and quiet and I want to say simple, but I know it was a big 50 episode, but we thought it would be best to keep it respectful, for Remembrance Day and whatnot. But now that we're off of that sounds very disrespectful. But now that we're here, we're back with the vibes and the energy. So I didn't want to say that, everybody out there, you got to be able to just chase those things without worrying about whether somebody's done it before you, right? Because every single one of those guys did it that way because nobody had done it before, right? You're the new pioneer of whatever new thing you're trying to start. So why not just go for it?
And also, you shouldn't be afraid to use other people's stories or material in pursuit of your own truth. Mm-hmm. For example, this story I heard on another podcast. I completely took it and I told parts of it in my own way. But for sure, it was his material. He wrote that story and got it from, Matthew's perspective. He took that story from someone else. And if you look at the internet, all this content is recycled. It's just the way that we choose to present it that's different between each channel. So you don't have to be... First of all, you should be unique. Find your own twist on things. That's always important. Plagiarism is wrong in every world. But I think that you can take things from other people. and find a unique twist in it, find a different lesson in it. That's what we do here. If you look at most of our videos, bro, we don't think in a conventional way, I'd say. Most of our thoughts are unique and constantly looking for a different attitude or perspective in these movies, shows, and different lessons that we learn from them. So go out there and do things your way. There is no set path for life. And this is a saying that I thought of when I was thinking up ideas to talk about for this episode. The one sentence that really came to mind for me was, everybody wants to reach the same destination, but they don't realize that there's an infinite number of paths that lead there. You don't have to follow the same path that your neighbor followed. You don't have to follow the same path that your parents followed, your friends followed, your relatives followed. It doesn't matter. We're all on a unique journey. Even though your goal may be the same as a lot of these people, it doesn't mean that you need to do exactly what they did. There's often a lot of beauty and exploration to be found by pursuing something unknown, by doing things your way. And the funniest thing is, by doing things your way, you do it the best because you stick true to who you are. You have a certain character about you. Your experiences and thoughts shaped you to be a certain somebody. So why would you turn your back on that somebody and try to be somebody you're not?
You know, I know that we're only 7 minutes in, but guess what? I'm going to kick this off with another story.
Fire away.
And that story is about the eagle and the chickens. You heard this story? I feel like I've told this story before on a previous episode, and I hope that I have.
I think if you've told the story, it's probably on one of the earliest episodes.
I think it might have been
uploaded.
like episode 6 or 7, maybe.
Yeah.
So most of you guys that might watch this probably don't remember or haven't even seen that episode.
Yeah.
But the story goes that there is a farmer, and he has a chicken coop. And one day he's walking down a path when he finds a big egg in the middle of the path. Now he picks up this egg and he's like, damn, this ain't no chicken egg, but I might as well put it with my chickens. So he puts the egg with the chickens, and when it hatches, out comes a baby eagle. But the farmer doesn't know how to raise an eagle, so he just lets it grow up like the chickens. So the eagle, he digs his head in the dirt, finds worms, flies a few feet off the ground as chickens do. But he never really does anything that eagles do. And then one day he's, clucking about with his chicken pals when he looks up in the sky and he sees a majestic, glorious bird, wings spread, gliding in the sky. And he asks his chicken buddy, he's like, hey man, who's that up in the sky? Who is that guy? And they're like, hey man, that don't worry about that guy. That's the eagle. You'll never be like the eagle. You could never be. We chickens, we're bound to the ground. But the eagle, he's the king of the skies. The eagle lived his whole life as a chicken when he was born an eagle. You were born to do something. You are born to be somebody. So you sell yourself short by trying to adapt yourself to everybody else around you, by listening to taking their paths through lives. Imagine if I guess the eagle didn't have much say in it because he was put in a chicken coop. But don't you think that maybe that's how your life goes? You think that you are put in a school where you're taught how to think? You go to a university where they tell you that this is the path that you should take? Did you ever think that maybe if I deviate from that path, I could do something great? And that's not saying don't go to school. It's saying to find your own way through it. That you don't have to go the exact same way that everybody else does. That's the beautiful thing about humanity is we have individualism. It's not like many other species. Many other species don't get that luxury, right? You were given a gift, the ability to be different. Why not embrace that? And it's really sad to see that people can't even embrace that nowadays. And this entire world and culture, especially with social media, so many people are willing to bring other people down just for being themselves because it doesn't align with them, right? And this works on both sides of the spectrum. People will say I'll take men as the example, right? Because this is the demographic that I know, right? Is that on one end, people are like, oh, you can't be weak, you can't be vulnerable, right? And then the other end, people are like, oh, these alpha males or whatever are idiots, right? And it's like, do you really feel the need to call each other idiots when each of you is just trying to live your life in your own way? And I think that at some point in everybody's life, they reach their own reckoning, right? Their own crossroad of destiny, where they'll be like, is this really the kind of person that I want to be? But when you try to force that on somebody, oftentimes all you're doing is shaping an incorrect mold, right? All you're doing is building a character that is not themselves. And that's why I urge any teacher, parent, guru, advisor, any of these people that are guiding, especially younger people, right? These moldable individuals, you have to be very careful about what you're doing Because take Andrew Tate for an example. I don't blame him necessarily for what happened, because he did create a bit of a problem. I think that a lot of people, especially young men, like about our age, like a little bit younger, even teens, were very misguided by his actions. I think that they took it the wrong way, and they took his harsh way of life way too seriously. They took the things he said as jokes more seriously, right? And that, I can't put that 100% on him, but when you're at that kind of a point in your life, you do have a set of responsibilities. You need to recognize that, hey, what I say is going to influence people, so I should watch what I say, right? It's the same reason that teachers can't say whatever they want in class, right? Because they know that they're going to influence young minds. I think that we need to hold people to better standards upon that. I mean, actually, now that I think about it, I guess that's what like guidelines are on YouTube.
Yeah, but here's my thing though. At what point do the guidelines become restrictive of creative freedoms and expressing who you are?
But then again, it's like, why shouldn't teachers be able to talk about why the Holocaust is good, for example? Not that I'm condoning that, but this is a simple debate, right?
I mean, I don't see why they shouldn't be able to do. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's tough to say, because here's my thing. What happens if the teachers work for a corrupt government agency? Because schools here, at least, are funded by government. So public education is paid for by the government, and the school system is designed by the government. So whatever they want to teach as truth becomes gospel, even though it's not true. For example, why do we see nothing? Well, we used to see nothing about First Nations individuals. Now it's all they talk about. So my point is...
I'd say there's a difference between not talking about something and specifically talking about one thing. It's not like we worshipped like John Smith as a hero for like, he was a guy who like killed a bunch of Native Americans, I believe.
Oh, wow.
That was like one of the plot points in Pocahontas.
Oh, damn, really?
Pocahontas is a very dark story.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't even watched
The
movie.
movie is all sunshine and rainbows about the, Native Americans becoming friends with like the Western people.
That's crazy.
But the real story is like John Smith, I think like the main character, he like killed and did some not so great things to like a bunch of First Nation tribes. And like they somehow made a Disney spinoff of this story and made it good.
That's
so
crazy.
Like, it is a terrible story. And I will admit that in the past, there have been situations where like people in authority have taught wrong things.
Yeah.
But again, like I draw the point is, when is it just talking about one thing or not talking about something, versus talking about the opposite, right? We never really worship these people who killed Native Americans as like God or anything, or as these great individuals. But it's just we didn't really recognize enough about like the other side of the story.
True, but my thing is, I think it's a bit unfair for me to also sit here and blame Tate for everything that happened to his actions.
Yeah.
Because I think that the more important thing, or I think there's two schools of thought. One school of thought is he caused a lot of people to go astray and think extremely. The other school of thought is he inspired a lot of people to be better. And on top of that, those two schools of thoughts have an underlying belief system. This school believes that he should be persecuted for what he did. This school of thought believes there's insufficient evidence to persecute him for what happened. So this assault on him...
No, I think that there's a difference. I don't agree with like DCOT seizing all this stuff. Or
yeah,
whatever.
okay.
Like the legal issues, I mean, I don't know enough about the case to say whether like right or wrong.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. We only hear it from their perspectives,
Exactly.
right?
So we have no idea. But like, for example, my thing is, take Tristan Tate, for example. He actually explains stuff in a calm, rational manner.
100%.
He doesn't say things that are very clearly things he doesn't agree with.
I mean, I would say that he does sometimes, but definitely less than Andrew.
And he's also far more sarcastic in the way he says it. Like, you can tell that he's being facetious.
That he's joking, yeah.
But Andrew, a lot of the time,
Hold up. Slow down. What was that word you just said?
Facetious?
Say that again.
Facetious.
What does that mean?
It's like not serious, jokingly.
Really? That is a crazy word.
Facetious is a great word. Use that in your
That is a
dictionary.
really, really good
ladies
word
and gentlemen, when I tell you, you need to expand your vocabulary. Why do I have
You are not close enough to the mic, buddy.
See? Ladies and gentlemen, you need to expand your vocabulary. You need to, learn some more big words. Make yourself sound smarter. I mean, not only that, but I mean, it makes your speech sound more flowy and less clunky, When I say joking, and then facetious, then it's like, damn, he knows what he's talking about.
Think about that. That word got me thinking. I was like, I don't know what
So
that
it
means.
captivates people. That's
I don't
very
know what
important.
that means.
Right?
That's crazy.
But the idea is that, like, at what point, or with how he delivered his message, I think he could have done it in a better way.
True.
So as to not cause the negative side effects, right? Because there's plenty of great people out there that are preaching this kind of stuff
Yeah.
in a good way, right? Like take Goggins, for example. He's not like actually, he doesn't, I don't think anybody has listened to what Goggins has said and done necessary harm with it. Because he talks about just straight up just pushing yourself, right? And he pushed a great message. He's inspired millions of people even to actually, get up and work. So you don't need to be a super controversial guy to do it.
True, but I would also like to point out that Goggins, I don't want to say endorsed him, but he said that he really likes the work that Andrew Tate does.
Well, no, what he said was that he respects that he can speak his mind.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's
like,
what
that's
he said.
the
That he
thing.
doesn't care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, so
and that's realistically what this episode
Literally
is about.
coming back down to the point is
Yeah.
that you need to be able to, you should be able to speak your mind, but understand that your words do still have effect on people.
True.
Right? Like,
True.
I'm not saying prioritize over that, but if I have no reason to insult somebody, like if it literally provides me no gain to say anything,
Mm-hmm.
why should I say it? What is it from? If you have Thumper
If you
said
have nothing
nice
good
to say.
Oh, yeah, nice to say.
Nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Say it again.
If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Shout out to our mother because she's the one who
She used to
tell
say
us.
that all
All
the
the
time, man. I remember growing up, I would like me and him. We used to have beef.
Oh,
we
yeah,
didn't
we
used
had
to be
serious
tight.
beef.
We didn't used to be tight like we are now. I mean, actually, I'd say we had a really good bond. Always growing up, we didn't really like have fights or prolonged fights where we didn't talk to each other or we weren't friends. But we definitely beat each other up
yeah.
consistently, insulted each other all the time, fought over the Wii, fought over the Xbox, over the DS. You name it, man. We've been beefing over it as
yeah.
kids. Okay,
Absolutely.
And when we would insult each other, our mother would always come up to us and say, "What does Thumper always say?" And then we'd stand there looking up at her, being like, "If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all." And then we'd
And
walk
I
away.
have to admit, I think I wonder, because, people always say, like, the truth can hurt. And that's true. But is it necessary to say the truth? And that doesn't mean, again, to say a lie. But it's like, do you need to be truthful in the moment? Do you really need to tell this person to their face this thing? Or could you... We talked about this on a different episode, because I remember bringing up this example, and I'm trying to rack my brain of who said it. It was, Simon Sinek. He talked about how,
yeah. I
his
remember.
friends play.
Yeah.
And his friend asked him, like, oh, how was the play? And it was terrible, but he said, I really like seeing you on stage, right? And it's not, it kind of is a form of dodging, but it's find something good to say in every possible moment.
Well,
right?
dodging is different from lying, so I think that's a valid answer.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So I would say just find something good to say.
Yeah, true.
It's not that, I think that there's a fine line to walk between the two. And I would say, number one, prioritize being yourself. That's very important. Like, don't try and throw your character out for the betterment of everybody else, because I think that people have more to gain by you being yourself.
Yeah, you know why why that specific podcast episode between Chris Williamson and Chris Bumstead really inspired me? Well, for those of you that don't know, if you live under a rock, Chris Bumstead is a bodybuilder who is currently the 6-time Olympia champion. Okay, so best physique in the world in that specific division. Okay, 6 times in a row. And he's a very interesting character because he developed his story by going through a lot of challenges in bodybuilding, obviously. It's not an easy journey to get to that kind of a physique. There's a lot of mental struggle and physical challenges that goes into it. Tracking 6 meals a day, you can't eat anything outside of that specific diet you created for yourself because you'll put on too much body fat and you won't look good enough. You need to consistently be working out hard every single day or else you're not going to be good enough. That inadequacy is really tough on a lot of people. And C-Bum is not someone who's foreign to feeling that. In fact, it's one of the cornerstones of his journey. He constantly talks about how he had mental breakdowns, depression, anxiety, all these crazy feelings. Even the most jacked guy in the world feels those things. And yet, instead of sitting here hiding it behind a facade saying, I'm the toughest guy ever, look at all my big muscles, I'm all right, he opened up his heart and said, guys, I'm feeling down. And he has cried on camera before. He's shown the struggle he's gone through. That vulnerability is what inspires a lot of men to understand that it's okay to feel things, but also to keep moving forward. And I think the most important thing in his story is that he was himself. He didn't sit here and think, I need to be somebody else. I just need to be me. And I think that's a point that all of you guys need to take home. Stop trying to be somebody you're not. And one of the biggest places where this is evident is YouTube. There are so many different channels on YouTube, okay? So many different channels, so many different styles, so many different personalities behind each one. And yet we have hundreds of thousands of insanely successful creators. Let's take two, for example. Let's take Mr. Beast and Sam Sulek. Now, if you look at the average Mr. Beast video, it's heavily edited. There's usually a lot of people almost acting as actors for a stage, and it usually involves some insane plot with a heavily edited script, okay? You take that video, and it does insanely well on YouTube. Now, if you siphon over to Sam Sulek's channel, what's going on over here?
It's just raw footage.
This guy just records himself going to the gym, driving in the car, having a chat with the camera, post it on YouTube. Bang, millions of views. Raw, unedited footage of him working out. Why? It's because there's always going to be people who are interested in who you are. They're not interested in a fake persona you create. It's all about authenticity. Who are you? Because when your personality shines through the screen, people can feel that. You don't even need to speak because they know who you are. And that's exactly why Sam Sulek's channel does so well, even though it's not scripted, even though it's not edited. It's just him being him. That's the best thing you can do out there for you and everybody else around you. Because not only is it more enjoyable for you to follow your path on your own, being who you are, it's also enjoyable for everybody else to sit here and engage with someone authentic. Do you ever go out and talk to somebody, whether it's at school or you go on a date, and you talk to them and you know that their personality that they're showing you is completely fake? Everything they talk about is completely surrounded around things that they know, not things that they've done or who they are. That kind of fake personality is the kind of person you don't want to be in a relationship with or friends with, for that matter. But it's someone who's vulnerable. It's someone who shows you, hey, this is who I really am. No strings attached. No masks. That's the kind of person you want to be best friends with for the rest of your life. That's why homies know everything about each other. Well, I wouldn't say everything about each other. I'd say, like, realistically, you don't know much about them.
But you know their character. That's the thing.
Yes, that's
like,
perfect.
I think that a lot of people get that mixed up, especially with male friendships. Again, I can't speak to female friendships. Believe it or not, guys, I am not a female. So I can speak to male friendships that, even with you, I mean, I know basically everything about you.
Yeah, but that's kind of different.
Because you're my brother. But, like, for most of my best friends, I could tell you that I probably don't know, like, what their favorite color is or, what their go-to meal is. I couldn't tell you that stuff. But what I could tell you is when they're having an off day, for the most part. Or when something's going wrong, I could tell you that. Or if I need to help them, I could tell you that. But because those are the things that truly matter, because that's character. It's not about knowledge, right? That's why when people are like, oh, you don't know this about me. You don't know. How do you not know that about your friend? And it's like, because I never really needed to. What I really needed to know was what kind of person he is, right? How can I help this person when things go wrong? How do I have a conversation with them without, talking about the superficial things? Because the truth is, I don't think people really care about the superficial things. Like, they'll think, oh, that's cool that you like that color. Oh, it's cool that you like that car or that watch. That might be cool. But who are you? And I think that's one of the greatest questions in life is, who are you? Because when you really start to break it down, that becomes a very scary question. But it becomes a very real one. And I know I've talked about this. Because this is, I think, the cornerstone to self-help and getting better is to identify who you are. Who do you really want to be? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be on this earth? Once you identify that, man, life is a piece of cake. When I tell you that that is the hardest, and I mean the absolute hardest challenge of your life, I can say that with certainty. And the reason I say that is because it's also ever-changing. It's not going to stay the same for the rest of your life. You're not going to want the same things you want now in 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's a trap that a lot of people fall into. Because if you asked a man who is 90 years old right now, what would you want? Or actually, okay, let's start beginning. If you asked a kid who was 18 and you asked them, what do you want? They would say, like, man, I want all the time to spend with my friends. Right? I want to be able to go out and party. I want to be able to hang out with my friends. You ask a guy who's 30 at his job, you ask him, hey, man, what would you want? He would probably say, man, I want a lot more money. I want to be able to, take my family on this vacation or this vacation. If you ask a man who is 90 years old, what do you want? He would say, man, I just wish I had more time. So every time every possible moment in your life, that idea is switching, right? But what the problem arises when you lock yourself into one thing. When you believe that for the rest of your life, this is the exact set path I have to follow, and I can't deviate from it in the slightest. I think the people who have the happiest lives, or I think that the happiest moments in life are the unscripted ones. Like for me, it was my walk through the park at 3 a.m. with me and my friends. We had just finished playing basketball. I think I've told the story. So we went to McDonald's, ate some pizza, not from McDonald's, from across the street from McDonald's, because McDonald's closed on us because they're scam artists. And then we went and played some basketball until like 3 a.m. And then we went for a walk through the park, through the woods at 3 a.m. And we were all, terrified, but we had a good time. And that's a night that I'm going to remember forever. That's the funny thing, is that a lot of the planned nights out with my friends, I can't remember them off the top of my head. Like, we've been to Denny's plenty of times with our friends. And I can tell you that, yeah, we've been to Denny's a million times. But I couldn't really recall to you one specific time we went to Denny's, off the top of my head that easily. I could think, if I think for a second, okay, the night after our grad, we went to Denny's, right? That's, a pretty significant moment. But that day where we just randomly decided, hey, let's go to Tynehead, that is, a moment that I'm not going to forget.
Yeah.
That's a moment that's just stuck with me. And why? Because it was something off the script.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the most valuable moments in a movie? Improvised moments.
Damn, that's true.
Right? They literally provide some of the most valuable things. Some of the best bloopers are because of improvised moments.
Yeah, think about Robert Downey Jr. always hiding snacks on the scene.
Exactly.
He's always eating. And then in the middle of the scene, he'll offer somebody food.
Yeah.
And it's not part of the scene.
Exactly. So
those moments are funny, man.
It's hilarious because guess what? It wasn't what you expected.
Yeah.
Life is full of twists and turns. You can't live your entire life by the book and expect to be happy.
Yeah.
Right? If you live by that book, you're forcing yourself to do something that you might not want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying never have a plan, because that's very important. But it's to understand that you make the plan, you execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw away the plan.
I goat Leonard Snart.
Leonard Snart. I think that if you stop locking yourself in and you allow yourself to live a little, you're going to enjoy life a hell of a lot more.
1,000%, man.
And also, don't, locking yourself into yourself is one thing. But again, don't lock yourself into other people. Mm-hmm. Don't be like, these have been my friends for whatever time, so I'm going to like what they like. Or, all my friends are doing this, so I guess I should do this too. Or, everybody on social media is doing this trend, why don't I do it? Take Gideon. Gideon revolutionized YouTube forever, I think. And I don't think people give him enough credit for what he did. This guy absolutely changed the game when it came to pranks. Nobody did it at the level that Gideon did it. Getting your hair cut in an NBA game, or the stuff that he did in these retail stores, or in the IHOPs and stuff like that. Nobody thought of that stuff. Nobody did it like he did. But after he did, look at what happened. The wave of people trying to recreate what he did. And yet none of them are remembered like he is. Why is that? Because they tried to jump on a wave that wasn't them. That really isn't their thing. But there's still hundreds of content creators that are on the up and coming that are doing well. Why? Because they're doing their own thing. Because we don't want trend hoppers. Nobody wants a trend hopper. Because guess what? That's not what we're looking for. That's the thing about YouTube that was so great, is that it was invented not as a space for money, but as a space for people to be themselves, right? That's why the OG YouTubers are so beloved. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that Brian Higa is one of the most loved YouTubers of all time? Because he made original content. Nobody did videos like Ryan Higa. Or think about Dude Perfect. Trick shots are so generic nowadays, but why didn't anybody do as well as Dude Perfect? Because they were the originators. That was just who they were.
Yeah.
So when you want to blaze a trail, do it. You can't be stuck in trying to follow everybody else's trail, because the truth is you're going to live in a shadow the whole time.
Let me tell you guys something. This is about a YouTuber I absolutely despise with every fiber of my being. This guy, every time I see his videos pop up on my YouTube feed, it itches in the most visceral parts of my heart. It makes it burn.
God damn.
Whistling Diesel. This guy, bro. Now let me tell you, relax, all right? Let me tell you. I love cars more than anything. That's why there's a Lego car up there every single episode. I love cars, and I cannot wait until I'm successful enough to buy cars. But let me tell you something. Every time I see Whistling Diesel blow up some crazy car that he just bought for just a random YouTube video, it drives me nuts. For example, this one is much less critical, like the Tesla where he put the giant wheels on it. I thought that was hilarious and drove it upside down. That's crazy, okay? But The one thing I'll never forget is when he drove that Ferrari, completely wrecked it, literally cut the mirror off for no reason, drove it through a cornfield, and then it caught fire and burned down. Okay? When I saw that video, I was enraged. Okay? I actually couldn't believe it. But then I also thought to myself, there's a certain merit to understand that this guy can afford a Ferrari and I can't. Why is that? He's also not doing something that a lot of people would ever think is a good idea. But he did it because that's him. That's who he wants to be, and that's what he wants to do. And at the end of the day, I can't tell him what to do with this money. Even though I don't want to see a beautiful machine destroyed, that's who he is. And I got to respect that, regardless of how much I love cars. So the thing is, even though he took such an unorthodox and absurd idea, buying supercars just to destroy them, it made an insane channel, which he built upon and created other things, like literally buying a tank. Think about that. This guy has done a crazy amount of things with vehicles that none of us could have ever imagined. And if he stuck to the conventional path of buying a Lambo and flexing on everyone on social media, nobody would like him the way that he is beloved right now.
Absolutely.
So even though he may piss a lot of people off, myself included, there's a certain merit to be found in the fact that he's very comfortable being him. He has no issue pissing everybody off, including Ferrari themselves. Because for those of you that aren't very acquainted with the car space, Ferrari is very particular about how people buy and use their cars. It's a very exclusive, like, cool kids club to own a Ferrari. In fact, they actually seized a Ferrari from the DJ Deadmau5, I believe, because he took his Ferrari, wrapped it in a light blue color, and put the Nyan Cat logo on it and called it the Ferrari. Okay? Because he did that, and I think he might have modded it as well, they essentially sent a cease and desist against him. And he ended up doing that to a Lamborghini and calling it a Lamborghini or something like that. Okay? He's also a guy who doesn't care.
Yeah.
But my point is, even though that Ferrari is that particular about their stuff, this guy Whistling Diesel had no problem lighting that thing on fire and just driving it like nothing. Okay? So, moral of the story, man, be you. Nobody else can be you. Take this to heart, okay? Just look at me and think about this. You are not Chris Bumstead. You are not Mr. Beast. You are not Kai Cenat. You are you. Don't go out there and try to be somebody who you're not, man. Go out there and be you. Do what you love. Do what you're actually passionate about and what aligns with your character. The more you try to fit into somebody else's archetype of person, the less you are human because you're not authentic. You are not you. You're showing this fake character. There's no point in doing that. Just be authentic and everything else will follow. And also, you don't need to sit here and listen to what everybody else has to say. Now, I'm going to bring up a crazy piece of media, a crazy movie that went completely over everybody's head as a child. In fact, myself included. I never understood the meaning behind this movie as a kid. But let me tell you, this movie, Surf's Up, is one of the deepest movies I've ever had the opportunity of analyzing.
Talking about Cody?
Yes. Yeah. This movie is actually crazy, okay? And I'm going to give a shout out to the guy who wrote the video that I watched that really broke this down for me. The video is called This Kid's Movie is About Existentialism. And I will link it in the description, so I will give credit where credit is due. He did a fantastic job with this video. Definitely go check it out after this. But essentially, the story of Surf's Up is it follows a community of penguins, and they surf, as you would assume. But it's also a fully functioning society where people get jobs, have families, get married, and follow the typical society that humans follow. Now, the story is centered around a young penguin by the name of Cody. Cody is a bit different from all the other penguins. He's unconventional. He doesn't want to follow the path of getting a job or just sticking to surfing. He wants to travel and be himself. One of the greatest sentences that he ever says is, in response to his mom asking him who he wants to be, he says, "I want to go away." Meaning he wants to go on his own journey and find who he is. Throughout this movie, people tell him who he has to be. You got to get a job as a fish sorter, man. You're not going to be able to pay for your bills. How are you going to support your family? You're not going to be successful. You're not going to be this. You're not going to be that. And his response was really, really elegant. And it's summed up in this one scene where he's walking out to the beach, surfboard in hand, ready to go hit the waves. And as he's walking, he's muttering to himself, "Man, everybody's always saying, Cody's a bum, Cody's a loser, Cody's this, Cody's that. Cody's me, bro. Let me be me." And when he said that, I really took that to heart because we often take it upon ourselves to influence others, to tell them who they can and can't be. And we're told that by society as well. We need to stop listening. We need to stop latching those chains onto our arms and legs and dragging us behind, because there's no point in letting other people tell you who you can and can't be. You find meaning in your life by being who you want to be. Stop letting other people say who you should be. That's the greatest thing, because no one knows more than anyone what you want to do than you. You were put on this earth to pursue your own passions. Why are you sitting here trying to pursue other people's, man? That movie is so crazy deep for a kid's movie. I swear, bro, I wish they made movies like that again. It's so depressing to see that movies don't have that same kick anymore.
I know, they're so superficial nowadays.
It's so sad.
Like, I think that maybe the movie and cinema, like, industry reflects how our lives are nowadays. Like, reflects people. Think about how superficial people are nowadays. Like, take online dating, for example. Think about how superficial it is. You just match with somebody based on the simple things you put on your profile that really don't have anything to do with who you really are.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you evaluate as, like, you should like somebody based on the simple things of, like, oh, they like this and I like this, so clearly we must be perfect for each other. And it's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Do those things really matter? Are the superficial things what make up your identity? Like, I'll ask you, look at your Instagram bio or your TikTok account. Look at the things you've put on there and ask yourself, do they really exemplify who I truly am? Like, is that truly the importance of my character? Is that truly the depth of my soul?
No.
Right? It doesn't really make sense. People are sat here believing that they are the sum of superficial ideas. Your favorite color, your favorite type of music, what you like to do in your spare time. Is that what you are? Or is it during the times that matters? Is that who you are? Right? Is it what you do when you're not yourself who you are? That doesn't make sense to me, right? When you are truly alone, that's when you are who you are. So the real question we should ask each other is, what do you do right before you sleep? Who do you think about right before you sleep? Who do you see in the mirror when you get up? Those are the questions you should really be asking yourself and asking those around you. Because these superficial relationships aren't worth your time. Mm-hmm. And they're not worth your time not only for others, but for yourself. If you really want to wake up to a fake mirror every day, propagating a view of another person, then I'm sorry to tell you, but you won't find happiness in your life.
Yeah, 1,000%. Finding happiness is such an interesting thing, because that's actually what the movie is all about. Because they say that it's about, or at least this guy's analysis of it said that it was about existentialism. Now, I'm going to read you guys the definition of it so that you can actually understand where I'm going with this, all right? So, existentialism is a philosophical theory or approach which emphasizes the existence of the individual person as a free and responsible agent determining their own development through acts of will. Basically, it's saying we are trying to find purpose in our life through conscious actions, okay? I think that purpose in this movie was clearly described as being happy. Now, this is a point that's hit home very, very easily with one character. I don't know if you remember this. Have you actually watched the movie?
I've watched it, but a really long time ago. Like, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Well, the story is of the Hall of Fame surfer, Big Z.
The rooster or chicken, whatever. Yeah.
No, that's not Big Z.
Oh, is it
Big Z is this penguin who is super, super good at surfing. At the time, he was the greatest to ever do it. Several championships back to back to back, and he became obsessed with winning. So obsessed that when he lost his first match, it crushed him. He felt lost. He couldn't face his fans anymore. He couldn't face himself anymore because he felt empty without winning. He thought that winning was everything until he lost it. And so he ended up living in a secluded area by himself, a shell of the penguin he once was. Several years down the line, people found him again and saw him happier than ever. He was fat now, a little bit, and didn't look as athletic as he used to be. But he looked so much happier. That face of sullen anger and determination to win was gone, and instead it was replaced with a smile that showed he had found true happiness in life. And that was because he rekindled his passion with surfing. Instead of surfing to win, he was surfing to have fun. He was surfing on his own time, by himself, out on the waves, just having fun. That is where he found true meaning in life. And he tries to tell that to Cody as well, because Cody becomes obsessed with winning as well in the movie. But when he meets Big Z tells him, man, You just got to live life. Just be happy. Don't let this arbitrary thought of winning tell you that that's how you need to live. Let me tell you something. Winning is not important. The important fact is you get to decide whether it's important to you or not. I may say that winning is important to me, but that doesn't mean that it's important to you. Andrew Tate can sit here and scream at the camera saying you need to be rich, you need to have Lambos and McLarens. But if that's not what you want to pursue, then don't do it. That same path is not for everyone. The point is you pursue the path that is congruent to your character. Find something that makes you get up every single day with a smile on your face. Let me tell you, recently, I've been waking up at 5:30 in the morning every day to go on a 3-kilometer run. That has become an integral part of who I am. And I find that all my days become so much better when I do that. If I told the average person you need to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to go on a run just to make your life better, most people probably would call me crazy. But that's okay because I don't care about most people. I care about me. What I got to do is not the same as what you got to do. But what is important is that you figure out what is important to you.
You know, when you told that like story about Big Z, right? It actually reminded me of this quote that I wrote down. And the quote was, "I finally found my rhythm when I realized that even the steps backward were part of the dance."
Damn.
And I love that. I love it because it taught me the importance of learning how to fail with a smile. How to make a mistake with a smile. How to make a step backward, but still look to the future with a smile. Right? To not be afraid about the fact that things might not be going exactly how I want them to go right now. Because I have faith that I will make it work. Right? But that faith comes from knowing that I'll do what it takes to make it work. To know what's important to me. Like the same way that if you were on the other side of the planet, right? If you were in some random country that I didn't know, but I knew you were in trouble, I know I'd get there. Like, I don't know how I would get there. I don't know what I would do, but I would get there. How do I know that? How can I know that with every fiber of my being? Because every fiber of my being would make me do it. So you need to ask yourself, when do you itch? When do you feel that need to do something? And it doesn't need to be making $1 million. It doesn't need to be having a girlfriend. It doesn't need to be driving a Lambo. It doesn't need to be having a Rolex. But it could just be waking up with a smile and going to bed with one. Waking up and telling yourself, hey man, I love you. Looking in that mirror and being like, I'm proud of the person that I see. That could be it. But you just don't know it yet. So find out what that itch is and scratch it, man. The problem that most people face is that they think that, okay, let me look at everybody else's life. Where did they have problems? So that must be where my problem is. But no. Life is the hardest exam because we all try to cheat not knowing that everybody has different papers. Right? You got a different paper, man. You can't rely on looking at everybody else's answers because they're not going to help you. The best answers are the ones that come from within. And understand that you have nothing to prove to anybody. There's no reason to prove things to anybody. When you start proving things to other people, that's when you begin to lose. And there's actually a quote that I think exemplifies it really well. And the quote is, your garden isn't thriving because every time a flower blooms, you cut it off to prove to someone else that you are a gardener. You want me to go through it one more time?
Damn. That is deep. But yes.
I'll throw this one more time for you guys. Your garden isn't thriving because every time a flower blooms, you cut it off to prove to someone else that you are a gardener.
That's heat.
That
is
is
a crazy,
absolutely brilliant quote. Stop cutting your flowers to give to people who don't care. Instead, keep them around you because the beautiful people that will care about your garden will come to you.
Yeah.
Right? Those people that truly admire your flowers for what they are will come to you. You know that there's actually a quote I saw that it said that, one time I saw a flower so beautiful, I decided not to pick it. And I think that they were talking about like a partner, that they saw somebody so perfect that they didn't even want to like enter their life. It was actually more of a depressing post.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's kind of a crazy thing to me because if I saw someone who was like extremely perfect for me, I would take a shot. Why not, man? It's life.
But I think that the better way to analyze it is that sometimes other people aren't always looking to pull you away from yourself. right? Sometimes people just want to be there with you along for the ride, right? You don't always walk in your garden to pick every single flower, but sometimes you just want to observe their beauty. So you don't always want it for yourself, but you want it to exist on its own. So why not look at people that way? Or why not believe that other people will look at you that way? Stop running over to ask people, pick me, pull me out of the ground. Why? Because maybe you'll be higher up, but you're not going to survive very long out there, right? So don't forget to hold on to those roots and grow and be a beautiful flower.
You know the craziest way I can describe that? I think that when you chase after something consistently, constantly reaching out, trying to grab it as best as you can, you're a magnet whose force is repulsive. But when you anchor yourself and say, I am confident with who I am, and I will find what I need to do, and the rest will fall into place on its own, you sit there still, yet your force becomes attractive. What you want in life is automatically drawn to you. That's what I have found in my years of experience. In upcoming episodes, there are going to be some interesting guests that I have on here. I have a lot of big plans for this, so definitely stick around. But I will tell you, there have been a lot of people in my life who completely changed it, and I found them not through searching for them. I didn't find my best friends by running around saying, please, I want a best friend. I found my best friends by being me. And eventually, they found their way into my life, man. That's the thing. You don't have to sit here and switch up consistently and try to find other people. And my biggest advice for that is, especially in relationships, I think so many people are always trying to be someone they're not to get with a girl.
Oh, absolutely.
And I find that crushing because a truly valuable woman will love you for who you are. Yeah, sure, whatever. You get the point.
Women watch the podcast too. You got to be, we're all inclusive, guys.
Yes, we're all about equality.
Exactly.
Yes, so when you find the person for you, they will love you for who you are. Not the superficial things that you show on your Instagram, like you said. Yeah. Not the songs that you post in your bio to say, I like this guy.
Not the stupid, cringy pickup line you use, right? Like, think about the fact that if you go out with a girl and you propose this entire identity of who you are that impresses her, that makes her seem, all great, and yeah, maybe she'll go for a second date with you, but what happens on the second date? You have to put up this fake persona again. And
well, I think that it's a little bit different because I think you need a bit of game, as in you need to be unique and creative.
But you need to be you as well.
Yeah, play to your own style.
Literally, the greatest advice I will bring this up in a couple minutes as well. But Togi actually said this.
There's no shot. There's no shot.
Literally, Togi said, he's like, what the thing about getting girls, guys, is that all you got to do, you just got to be yourself. That's literally what he said. He said, literally, guys, just be yourself. And then, he proceeded to follow up. He was like, unless you're weird, then don't be yourself. But I think that it's even more important that if you are weird, that you be yourself.
Yeah, because 100%.
I think, it's important to be smooth and have game, but you can just make that part of your personality.
Yeah, true.
Right? But don't go on this date showing like, oh, I'm this big baller if you're broke as hell, right? Because the truth is, you may show out to her, and maybe she'll be like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. Maybe I'll go on a second date with him. Then she goes on a second date, and then what? You got to show out again. And then the next day, you got to do the same thing. How long do you think you can keep that facade up? Mm-hmm. How long do you think that you can protect your true identity from another person?
And more importantly, what's the point in letting someone you actually want to be in a relationship with fall in love with someone who's not real?
Exactly. You are literally taking your dream person and making them fall in love with somebody else.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Like, now that you said that kind of sparked the idea.
That is crazy.
Right? When you go out there and you're not yourself, what are you doing? You're literally giving them a chance to be with somebody that's not you.
Damn.
That's crazy.
Yo,
that's insane.
Oh my God.
Yo, I built that off of your analogy, though. Credit where credit's due.
100%
team
cooked,
effort,
bro. Team effort.
Genuinely, you gotta ask yourself that question: is why am I really doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I? Because listen, I am no better. I have found myself doing things that aren't in line with who I really am to impress other people. I've done it just as much as probably you guys have.
Yeah.
But in recent times, I realized that I have no need to do that. I have no need to show out for anybody. I have no need to be different to mingle, right? Instead, be yourself and let the right people come to you.
Bro, the relationships that last the longest aren't the ones built off of trap lords who flex the fact that they have a Lambo or a Hellcat. No, they're built off of relationships between people who can sit there and be weird. People who can sit there and laugh. You see those videos where the wife pranks the husband by doing something really stupid. Like I saw one where she fit her whole body into a hoodie and put like the legs out the arms. So she's just a blob running around on her legs, and she put on this scary mask. That's the type of wife you want in your life, man. You want someone who's going to be funny with you. When you come home from work, you had a boring and busy day, and she's sitting there doing something funny. That glowing presence is what I want in my home. That's the type of person I want to build a family with. Not the Instagram model who looks good for everyone else. The person who shows out for everyone. The person who's not real. That facade, I don't like that facade. I want the real one. The person who shows me their heart, their intentions, their character. Exactly. That's who I want to be in love with.
You need to fall in love with people's hearts, not their looks.
Exactly. 100%.
That is, I think that's true love right there. And that doesn't need to be romantically. Like, fall in love with character, not the superficial values that other people tell you to look at, right? When you're getting a friend, they don't have to be the exact same person as you, right? I think that some of my greatest friendships are with people who have different views than me.
Yeah.
Right? From people who don't see things eye to eye with me. From people who challenge my thought. Do you really want to be surrounded by yes men for the rest of your life? Is that the kind of life that you really want? Right? That's not, I don't think that's anything. I don't think anybody really wants that.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And think about it. Your funniest conversations are with your boys when you're doing stupid would you rather questions. Half the times, these answers are split between the two options and you're arguing back and forth. Oh, but you got to think about this. I didn't think about that. You wouldn't get that if you just had basic people around you who are like, yeah, I do the same thing as you. You're so lame, man. Get an opinion. Like, that's all I got to say.
No. You have an opinion. Voice it. Yeah, that's my thing.
100%.
You got it. I know that you got it. Everybody in your heads, I know there's been a time in your life where you sat there talking about something you either didn't care about or didn't believe. But you didn't say anything because you didn't have that courage yet. Yeah. Well, now I give you permission to be courageous. Yeah. Say what's on your mind. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything, though. That's what I'm going to say. If it doesn't help you to harm somebody, don't harm somebody.
Yeah, I can agree.
Don't harm people, okay, guys?
I think you're just on a bad spiral.
Yeah, that's a bad spiral.
Let me just tell you something, okay? This is something I just realized. I want you to think about our friend group. And then think about, when you look at them, do you see their appearance or do you see their character? Because for me, when I think about my friends, I don't think about what they look like. I think about who they are and what memories I have with them more than anything. For example, one big one for me is when I think about Caden, I think about being in Japan and standing in a store and I'm looking at expensive jewelry and this guy starts freestyling behind me.
Oh my God.
That was one of the funniest moments of our friendship. Yeah. And when I think about him, I think about that. Or when we went through that huge Pokemon Go phase and we're out in the middle of the night trying to catch these crazy Pokemon. I think about that. Those are the kinds of memories I have.
If you guys remember Abby from episode 25, episode 25, if you ask me to describe Abby, I wouldn't say, oh, he's about, 5'10", has kind of longish hair, has a beard and mustache. He's, he goes to SFU. I wouldn't say that. What I would say is, Abby, he's a super creative guy. He's innovative. He's different. He's a very fun guy to be around. He's super funny. I love playing video games with this guy. That's how I would describe him. Yeah. I would never describe him based on his physical attributes or these superficial things. You saying that, this is genuine. I swear to you guys from the bottom of my heart. If you asked me to describe them, that's how I would describe it. If you asked me to describe you, if some random person came up and I'd be like, yo, what's your brother like? I'd be like, he's an awesome guy. I love him. He goes to the gym. He works out. He does this podcast with me. He's a super funny guy, super great guy, one of the nicest people I've ever met. That's what I would say if I was describing him. But I wouldn't say he's about my height, brown eyes, black hair. That's about it. That's not how I would describe him. Yeah. His favorite color is blue. I wouldn't say that. His dream car is a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ. I wouldn't say that. Yeah. That's not important to me. What's important to me is who's beneath that facade. Mm-hmm. Who is truly the character.
Yeah, and staying true to your values is one of the most critical things you'll ever do in your entire life. If there's anything I want you to take away from this episode, it's this. Staying true to who you are, right? That's what this whole episode has been about. And that is exemplified very, very well in that book right there, Built to Last. I've brought this book up several times, okay? But this example I'm going to bring up is very, very specific to a company in there, all right? Now, for those of you that have not heard me talk about this book somehow, if you skipped those episodes, go back and watch them. I don't know what you're doing over here, all right? But I appreciate you tuning in. This book is a very, very well thought out process. It took many years to write it. It's well researched, it's well written, and well presented facts and research and data on what makes companies successful, way beyond successful. They termed them visionary because they last for many, many years and they outperform all other businesses in every metric of success. One of the key points they bring up in this is that visionary companies stick to their roots. They stick to their core values. They started this business for a reason. They follow that reason, and it guides every move that they make. One of the greatest examples of this is a pharmaceutical company called Merck. Now, for all you American folks, you should know what this company is because they make a lot of drugs that help cure diseases. If you don't, look them up. They have a lot of crazy work that they've done over the years. Now, one of the most critical points that they bring up in this book is a story about what happened after World War II. Obviously, we know America and Japan had a very rocky relationship after World War II, considering the war between the two countries. Yet, in Japan at the time, tuberculosis was ravaging the country and taking hundreds of thousands of lives consistently. Merck goes into Japan and introduces them to streptomycin, which is a helpful cure for tuberculosis. And the thing is, they didn't make any money off of this project. They didn't make anything, okay? And later down the line, from that act, they gained a lot of good media. They gained a good reputation. They became the company that helps people even when it's not beneficial to them. That reputation paid them a lot more than whatever they could have earned by bringing that drug to Japan specifically for the sake of making profits. Do you know what Merck's mission statement is?
No.
Merck's vision statement is, we are in the business of preserving and improving human life. Merck is not in the business of making money. They want to preserve and improve human life. And that guiding principle, that core value that they stick to like gospel, is the reason why they're as big as they are today. And it's the reason why they're beloved by so many people, because they did crazy things that no other company would do. Unconventional things like introducing cures for free. That's not the only time they did it too. They also tried to cure river blindness in several third world countries free of charge. At least in Japan, I'm pretty sure they charge like a super small fraction just to pay for the expenditure to get there. But in these third world countries where people can't pay anything, they gave these cures out for nothing. So the key takeaway from that is, stick to your guns. Be who you are. Because when you are that authentic person, that person who fights for what you're passionate about, not only do you help everybody else around you, but you create your best work.
Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the very end of episode 51. I hope that we brought back some more of that positive energy after a very solemn last episode. But you guys know you got to stick around for just a little bit longer because you guys already know what time it is. It's time for Quote
Of
the
Week.
Herram.
Quote of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Swim in your own current, even if you swim against the tide. And that quote is actually written in that book, Built to Last. And I just love this quote because everybody else around you is going to be doing things. They're going to go on these new social media trends. They're going to find new business ideas. There's always going to be a new fad that you could buy into and try and do. But if it doesn't align with who you are, with your true passion, with your core values, don't do it, because that's not staying true to who you should be. Instead, be passionate, be courageous, and do what you love.
Once again, thank you guys so much for sticking around to the very end of episode 51. We truly appreciate all the support over all of these episodes. Let me propose a question for you guys with this outro. Why not you? If everybody else could do it, why can't you? If everybody else could blaze their own trail, then why not you? Make sure you go out there and you be yourself, that you blaze your own trail through life, that you swim against the current at times if need be. But make that own path, be individualistic, and make sure you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.